Hello and welcome to a very special video here on the field of 68. Rob Dawson, Jeff Goodman. Kentucky just picked off Florida in the top 10 showdown in the first game of what should be an incredible day of college basketball. Goodman. We're going to have much more on this tonight on the field of 68 after dark at 10 o'clock Eastern time. John Henson, John Fanta, Jeff Goodman. I might stop by. I might jump in. I might come in there just so I can yell.
You're not invited. Fanta told me to tell you you're not invited.
All right, good. Then I'll start drinking as soon as we're done here. 106 to 100, one of the most entertaining basketball games that we've seen in a long time. Great way to start off the day. You know, sometimes I get a little bit worried with those early tip-offs that everyone, you're not going to have the same environment. You're not going to have the same level of intensity, and that was absolutely not the case. Kentucky got down 26 to 15 in the first half, went on a 16-0 run, and was able to hold off a Florida Gators team that, we'll talk about this, really proved themselves as an SEC contender. I don't think that there's any doubt that this team is very, very real and very much a top 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever you want to phrase it, team in college basketball. But let's start with the Wildcats. 6 guys in double figures, led by 23 from Kobe Brea. You got 19 from Lamont Butler and 8 assists. You got 10 assists combined from Andrew Carr and Amari Williams. I thought they did an incredible job at kind of exploiting what Florida did defensively. What are your initial takeaways here as Kentucky knocks off the Florida Gators?
A lot of weapons, man. A lot of weapons on this Kentucky team. And I'll say this, the most underrated transfer addition in the country was Lamont Butler. Clearly. He just does everything. Like, he has a calm demeanor to him. He doesn't get rattled. He makes all the right. He's an elite defender. Like you saw it today. Elijah Martin starts to go off, right, and make all those tough shots. And what happens? They throw Lamont Butler on him. That was it. He turned off the water. That was it. Now, again, Florida's got other dudes. So it's like, who do you put Lamont Butler on? You can't put him on everybody. But ultimately, he's an elite defender. He's the guy who just kind of stirs the drink here and makes all the right decisions and isn't about himself. But he's a much better offensive player than we gave him credit for over at San Diego State. So I think, again, you put him out there, you surround him with guys. You know, Andrew Carr is so versatile offensively, what he can do. You can throw the ball to him on the post. He can make threes. Obviously, Kobe Brea was unconscious today, might be the best shooter in the country. And you got a couple bigs. Like Mark Pope just did. I don't know if he knew it when he did it, Rob, but he just assembled a roster that seems – we haven't even talked about Otega Owe, who's their best all-around player. So – I don't know, man. They're fun to watch. I don't know how deep they go in the tournament, but if I'm a Kentucky fan and I'm watching this team right now, I'm like, all right, we beat Duke on a neutral court. We beat Gonzaga in Seattle. We beat Louisville in that battle, and now we beat one of the final 3 undefeated teams in the country, the Florida Gators. Like, what more do you want from this dude?
Yeah, it was a really, really impressive performance for a couple of reasons. One, Florida is a team that crashes the offensive glass and has 3 of the best tough shot makers you're going to find in the SEC on their roster. They got 15 offensive rebounds out of 36 potential offensive rebounds, right? Which is a very, very, very good number. Kentucky's going to not enjoy looking at their offensive rebounding film tomorrow. Walter Clayton, 33 points, 9 for 15 from the floor, a super efficient 33 points, right? Elijah Martin had 26. I think he had 15 in the first 8 minutes of the second half. He was 9 for 17 from the floor. Like, again, a really efficient 26 points. Those two combined for 59 on just 32 field goal attempts. And if you're going to tell me that you're going to get 59 points from Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton on 32 field goal attempts, I'm going to say that Florida wins those games 100 times out of 100, right? That's where I'm kind of at with it. They got to the offensive glass. Like, Florida did what they wanted to do, and Kentucky still found a way to be able to win. Now, I look at this 2 ways, right? One, I thought that Mark Pope's adjustments to what Florida did defensively was really, really impressive. I mean, look, you know that Amari Williams can pass. You know that Andrew Carr can pass. And what he basically did was find ways to be able to get those guys the ball in the high post, clear out a side, and send somebody backdoor, because Florida was really overplaying everything on the wings. And I think they combined for, 10 assists? They got a whole bunch of stuff on those backdoors. It really opened up their offense and kind of put Florida in a tough spot. But 2, they were able to win this game when Florida kind of executed their game plan. Like, think about that for a second. Florida puts up 100 points, does what they want to do, and goes on the road and loses to Kentucky. Like, that's really impressive. You got to shout out Kobe Brea here, man. 23 points, 7 of 9 from 3. I am a little upset. He got that rebound late on a missed free throw, and he kind of ruined his line. Was 23 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 0 turnovers.
You didn't want him to get the rebound.
No, I didn't want him to get that rebound.
Unbelievable. Listen, the other thing that I thought Kentucky, and again, you look at it, they gave up 100 points. So, like, how good could their defense? It was good in spurts, but early on in the second half, that is when Florida got to the offensive glass. And I thought after that, Kentucky did a good job late in the game of not giving too many second chance opportunities for Florida. Because, again, those guards are big, strong. I thought Condon plays hard as shit. I mean, Florida, again, say what you want. Like, Kentucky protected their home court here and won another big game. A resume win, all that. But the Florida Gators have been questioned for their non-conference schedule, right? They've been questioned. Like, we knew they had 3 good guards, but it's like, how good are they? Are they really the 6th best team in the country? Well, they went in a rough, and like you said, listen, they did what they were supposed to do. They fought. They had a chance to win this game, and I thought it said a lot about Elijah Martin today, because you still wanted to see, like, will he keep this thing going? Because last year was a tough season for him, and he had been pretty darn good this season. But you want to see in a big game when the lights were at their brightest how he would be. And he was awesome. And the kid, Chinyalu, is tough in there, man. He's tough. He's perfect. These are 2 well-constructed rosters, 2 well-constructed teams that did it differently, right? But they're both, I think, have a chance to make some noise, not only in SEC play, but during the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I totally agree. In terms of Florida's non-conference schedule, like, they didn't have the best one, but it's not their fault that North Carolina is what they are, and it's not their fault that Wake Forest hasn't lived up to the expectations, or that Florida State is kind of down compared to what they used to be. They tried to schedule Virginia, and Virginia is now a sub 100 team. So it's not like they scheduled no one. It's not just by games. Did not work out in their favor. Kind of is what it is. That's the way that it goes sometimes.
I keep going back, Rob, to, like, we were wondering going into the season who was going to be their guy, right? Jackson Robinson. Is he good enough to be their guy? And now, after watching him a bunch, they don't need a guy. They don't need the way they play in Mark Pope's offense. They don't need a guy because, to me, again, I think Lamont Butler, they move the ball. Everybody moves the ball on their team. Everybody moves the ball.
There are going to be moments. This is where I'll push back. There are going to be moments where you need someone that can just go out and make something happen on their own, right? There are going to be moments where you need that. It has not burned Kentucky really all that badly quite to this point. I would make the argument that they ran into it a little bit at the end of the game at Clemson, like down the stretch there, because Clemson's a really good defensive team. But again, that's a road game against a top 30 opponent. It kind of is what it is. So, but the way that they can kind of run their offense, right? The one concern that I do have, and we saw this a little bit earlier in the season, and it was specifically late in that Clemson game, is a lot of the stuff that they end with are like open threes for Oweh, right? There's ways that you can kind of scheme to try to get the shots that you want them to take. And that's the only concern that I have, but that's also kind of picking nits a little bit here, right?
But I also think Oweh doesn't need to take those open threes. He can drive and kick. So, like, he doesn't need to settle for those. And now, again, if your shot clock's down to, 3, I get it if you're running your offense and you're at that point at the end of the shot clock. But generally, Oweh is a willing passer. Lamont Butler is now more of a threat offensively than we thought he was. Andrew Carr's more versatile as a big. We know, what Amari Williams can do passing it. Garrison's a better passer than I thought, to be honest. I didn't see that coming. So Jackson Robinson, yeah, he's still a guy who can do it, but you're not relying on him at all. I think you've got multiple ways you can go at the end of a game, and that's hard to defend for other teams.
Yeah, everything about Kentucky is hard to defend, right? Like, there's a reason why they're going to end up being like a top a top 10 offense in college basketball. We'll see what they are as soon as the kind of updates in KenPom here, but they're like a top 10 offense in college basketball. So look, I think if there's anything about this game that is kind of worrying to me as a Kentucky fan, it is they allowed Florida's two guys to really get going. When you have Lamont Butler and Otega Owe, who are supposed to be like two lockdown perimeter defenders, and you got beat up on the offensive glass, and you still found a way to win. Like I think that there's a lot of things that, let me phrase it like this. You went out and you got a massive win that puts you at 1-0 in SEC play against a top 10 opponent that was undefeated coming in, right? And you also got some things that you can learn about yourselves where you're Mark Pope and you can go back to the film room and say, we have this to work on. This is what we need to improve on. And that's kind of like a best case scenario if you're a coach, right? So these guys aren't going to be feeling themselves too much. There's things that you can bang on them about, and you still got the win and got the W. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I've no doubts that Florida's going to be in there in the mix all season long. I would, you hate stuff like this, but I would make the argument that I think it's a little bit more impressive to see Florida come out of this the way that they played. Maybe like I think
I
that
don't hate it. No, I actually I can look at it both ways on this one. Like I continue to be super impressed with Kentucky because they keep winning these games, right? To come back against Gonzaga the way they did, they kind of got away with one at Duke a little bit. Today they win a close game, but they won it. They won this one, right? It was never really in doubt at the very end. So I keep being blown away by what Mark Pope has done. But yeah, like to me, I could be equally as impressed with the Florida Gators. I saw them, a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago in Charlotte, and was impressed with them. I'd like to see them get a little bit more out of their 4s and 5s offensively, because I think Condon can give them more. I do. I think Condon's really, really skilled. And but you're so guard dominant. You're so guard dominant with this. And I said it to you earlier in the year. Like, I'm not sure there's a better guard trio in the country when they're cooking than Walter Clayton, Will Richard, and Elijah Martin. And they were Will Richard he had been so good the last couple games. But I think he just saw in a way like, hey, Clayton and Elijah Martin are cooking. Like, I'm going to get out of the way a little bit and let them go.
Yeah, let them roll. And as far as that needing more, like out of the big guys, you got 8 offensive rebounds and a combined 19 points and 18 rebounds out of Condon and Chinyelu, which is like, pretty good. And 9 points from Thomas Hoff too. Listen, we'll have much more on this game tonight. John Fenta, John Henson, and Jeff Goodman on the Field of 68 After Dark. It's going to be at 10 o'clock tonight. There's a lot to get to. There are a lot more basketball games that we're going to have to sit here and watch. Oh, Notre Dame just came back. It's got the lead on North Carolina. I'm going to go lock in on that one, Goodman. We will see you guys tonight at 10 o'clock Eastern.